and do a little bit of a longer video on part 2 of my psilocybin. I was calling it psychocybin. I don't know, whatever. Psilocybin journey. And wow, what an experience that has been. And I would say pretty much life changing and life altering in so many ways. And so I wanted to talk about that. And I thank you for all of your comments and questions that I've been getting such a really good response on these videos. And I'm super excited about that. I really am feeling that I am called to help other people with their disease or illnesses or anything that's going on with you, whether it's your mental or your physical. I'm on a whole nother path that I did not see coming when I was, I want to say stricken, because it does feel like I was struck by lightning in a sense, where it was like, I'm fine one day and the next day I'm not. And so that was a life altering experience, to be feeling healthy one day and the next day not. And hindsight is 2020, because as I looked back, I could see where I was in disease. And now I have healed that disease, or not me personally have healed it, but I've allowed God to heal it. And, yesterday I was talking with someone and I was like, yeah, I feel like I have been put on this planet to help people with their disease, whatever that is. And, I look at it in probably a whole different way than maybe the medical model looks at it. No, not maybe. I definitely do. And I'm learning so much by being in the hospitals and by being around doctors and nurses, and how different it is to be in that versus a place of miracle and faith, and not relying on drugs from pharmaceutical companies or vaccinations or anything like that. And so I wanted to, not that, okay, now the disclaimer here is not that that's bad, so to speak. It can be. And so it's just looking at like what's going to be best for your body and educating people on that. So that's kind of the direction I'm going in. And anyway, so part 2 of my experience was phenomenal. And what it looked like was basically, I did it in somebody's home, and it was in a very safe place. And I had, I think there was probably 5 of us all together, and we had guides. They call them sitters. They kind of just make sure you're doing okay and all that kind of thing. And they were really good about keeping a safe space and about integrating. They call it integrating back, and I'll talk more about that. So my experience was basically, I went in with the intention of letting go, right? So letting go of just any kind of ego or anything I could make up in my head, which can be very difficult for me at times. And so I basically was laying on a mat with a blindfold, and it's darkened out, and I actually really liked that because it really heightened my hearing, and I could just remember like sounds were pretty amplified. So they gave us the medicine. I took the medicine, and I call it medicine. It was like chocolate, very easy to take, very easy to handle. And sometimes people will have a side effect of maybe it might hurt your stomach or you might throw up. I didn't have any of that until like the next day. I didn't have anything going on with my stomach until the next day. So, and I didn't throw up or anything like that. So it's not like gross tasting, it just tastes like chocolate. So took that and then lay down on the mat and had the blindfold on, and I was like, all right, I'm laying there, and it's like, I don't know how many minutes has gone by, and I'm thinking, God, like, am I supposed to see a rainbow? Like, what's going to happen? I'm expecting, my ego definitely is expecting to see something, and to, is there going to be a hallucination? Like, what's going to happen? I didn't have any visual, and which is very odd, because typically I'm a very visual person. I've had visions while I've meditated, and visions when I was in the cave for 5 days. If you're curious about that, I have a video on that. That was a phenomenal experience. And so I didn't have any of that. And I just kept thinking like, God, is this stuff going to work? Is it going to kick in? Like, what's going to happen? And I realized with all of the work I've done internally that your ego does like to come up with all kinds of issues and problems, and it hates being uncomfortable, hates it. Like that, this is uncomfortable for the ego. The ego's never done this before. So the ego is like, what is going on? Like, get me out of here. I don't feel safe, right? And so that's different than your spirit and yourself. And, I wasn't in an unsafe place. So anyway, as I'm laying there, allowing this to unfold, I kept saying, I don't see anything, like, when am I going to see something? And I literally felt this presence of God envelop me and just kind of hold me in this space of, I don't know, like, it's so indescribable. It was like just the beauty of God around me and saying to me, I just want you to feel. I want you to feel the rainbow. And I felt every color of the rainbow. And it's such a, it's so hard to describe in words, that experience. How do you feel a rainbow? It's beyond words. It's beyond words. And then it started to unfold more into, God being there with me, and God showing me so many things about me and about divine love, and just really for me it was a huge emotional release. I started to shed, and what I mean by that is like I'm shedding tears, and it was like not like this depression type of sadness or a sadness I never thought would leave. And I don't know if any of you have ever experienced that. I have experienced that in my life where it's like, God, the sadness feels like it's never going to go away. That's like a depression where it's just hanging over you. It's not like that. It was not like that for me at all. I didn't have any kind of traumatic things come up. As far as a place where I wouldn't be able to handle it. It wasn't like that. It was just this magical unfolding of life, and more for me, it was about feeling and just feeling everything. And I had moments where I would hear a sound and I would want to laugh, and I had this joy, and then I had the experience where I felt like I was coming out of it, and I'm like, man, I really need to use the restroom. So, and I lost all concept of time. I don't even know what time it was. And it's not like you don't have any control over your faculties, because you do. You're not so detached that you don't know what's going on. Like if you drank a bunch of alcohol, you would be inhibited. You wouldn't have control, right? Like we think we do on alcohol, but we really don't. It's not like that. It was like I still had this sense, right? So I got up, I used the restroom, I came back, and I was like, yeah, I feel like I'm coming out of it. Everything's good. Like I'm aware, I'm conscious. Like I'm not in anything. And then all of a sudden, I just felt like I need to lay back down. So I lay back down, put the blindfold back on, and I went right back into where I was. It was so unreal. Where it was like, wow, what an amazing experience just to come back to this unfolding, and again, weeping and laughing and smiling and joy and peace and harmony, and more weeping and more just shedding of this so many things I had suppressed, I didn't even realize I had suppressed. And that was totally worth it in every sense. I'm actually, because it was so life-changing, I'm actually on the path to do my own plant medicine ceremonies. I want to go experience ayahuasca. I haven't done that yet. I'm so pumped, because it is something I believe that could help so many people. I never thought I would ever say that. I'm not I'm not a person that seeks out drugs, right? So, and it is a drug, however, it's from the plant. It's from a plant, and a mushroom. Who knew, like from a mushroom, that you could get this magical experience. And I would say do your own research on it and look at look at some YouTube videos that are out there and people that have done this, and people that have saved themselves from so many things, disease and cancer. And the other thing I would say for me is, with being diagnosed with cancer, it takes away lots of fear. Like, there's probably all the fear of death and of like not knowing what's going to happen next or where you're going to go. Or, I mean, it's a very spiritual, well, for me, it was a very spiritual experience, and I don't want to put out what it could be for you because it may be different for everybody. So the other part of it, I would say that was really, that had, well, it's not really, it's still amazing, is that coming off of it, like coming out, it does wear off at some point. Coming out of that I keep saying past tense, it still keeps on giving, which is like, it basically, I started to put together pieces of the puzzle. And what I mean by that is like, oh, this relates to this. Like, this thing that happened relates to this thing that happened on my journey. And so part of it, and I'll explain that to you, is that when I did the cave, and I say cave, it was like an adobe building, blacked out, and I was there for 5 days. And when I did that, I had this experience where I didn't talk to anybody for 3 days straight. And, it was me, myself, and I for 3 days straight. I was in there 5. However, the guy that owns the place, he was like, hey, I won't talk to you unless you talk to me first. So on the 3rd day, I was like, I have to talk to somebody. If I don't, I feel like I'm going to lose my mind. Like, the whole point is to lose your mind. However, I just was like, I really want connection. So on the 3rd day, I said hi to him, and the most profound thing happened, which was he said my name. And he said my name, and I just wept. And it was like such a powerful moment. And I didn't really understand the magnitude of that until I went through my journey with mushrooms. And it was, I had a saying, or like a mantra that kept repeating, which was, I call you by name, I call you by name, I call you by name. It kept repeating over and over and over. And I was like, that's totally from God. And I didn't realize the connection until I came out of it. And I didn't realize it until probably a week after the connection. And that connection is when the guy said my name, that was actually God saying my name, and I wept. And that's exactly what was happening on my journey, was God was calling my name. He's saying, I call you by name. And he calls all of us by name. And he, pursues relentlessly. And that was one thing that really spoke so deeply to me, was that I am after you. No matter what, I'm pursuing you relentlessly. I am not going to let you get away. And that just hit me so profoundly and deeply. And, and I would say too, like, if you're not a believer in God, I would do it. I would ask you to open yourself up to, what is your spirituality? What do you connect with? There's got to be something there. And so I would challenge you to look at that. And, I don't proclaim to be a Christian. Like, I don't label myself as that. I believe that we're all on a path to get to the same place. I do believe in Jesus. I just don't label myself as that. And so I'm open to whatever God has for me on this planet. And one of the big missions I have is to help other people. And, I will talk more. This is actually probably be a good video, is to do it on spirituality and like what that actually means for people. And that it's, like there is a religious component to it. I pray, I read my Bible, I practice, devotion to God and all of that stuff, so that there is a religious aspect to it. However, it's not the man-made concept that most of us think of going to a building and having somebody tell us, I'm going to preach to you. I'm not sure that I like preaching so much of, oh my gosh, I'm getting off track. I'll cut some of that out. Anyway, so that was my one. Those are the experiences I had. I will say that I did have these after we came out. I think we were probably. I was probably laying down probably 3 hours. I don't know if it was longer or not. I don't have. Again, I had no concept of time. And we came out, like they kind of closed the ceremony, and then you come out of that, and then we start to talk about like what's going on, what are you experiencing. And so I started to, man, that's one thing I noticed. I was super expressive, and typically I am very quiet and I wait for somebody else to talk, or I'm a big time observer. I learn by observing and I learn by listening. And I was just like, there's so much in here that I want to share and get out. And that's what the space I was in. I talked so much that my throat hurt. I talked so much, which is completely opposite of what I typically do. So that was really eye-opening. And then I started to see things where, like, I just remember looking out. There was this big window. I'm looking out the window. There's all kinds of trees outside. And I start looking at these trees, absolutely entranced with the trees. I mean, they're like waving, they're doing this. They're just waving to me. And I am like, wow, the trees are super alive. And they're like, it's almost like they're breathing. They're going like this. And then pretty soon they start changing into Indian chiefs. Like one of them was a big, powerful Indian chief that was like, had a kind of like a sword thing, or I don't even know if it was a sword, maybe javelin or something's holding something. And it's like protecting, like it felt so protective, and it was definitely not scary. And so all of the trees were kind of morphing into these sort of chiefs. I don't know. It was very strange. It was like almost like like these ancestors are here and they're guarding us and they're keeping us safe. I was amazing. I just kept looking at the trees. And then it was like everything was breathing, all the trees. And then like I noticed that if there was any designs on anything, the designs would breathe. So it was like wallpaper designs were kind of moving and doing this. It definitely wasn't freaky. It wasn't like, oh my God, I'm scared, I'm not going to come out of it. It was not like that at all. It was like so amazing. There wasn't any sort of other like hallucinations or delusions or anything like that whatsoever. It was just this peaceful, like kind of like a rhythm. And it's almost like everything's alive. Everything is breathing. Everything has some energy to it. And that was just fantastic to see that. And so it's also a gift that keeps on giving. I mean, it just keeps on showing me something. There's something that download or something that comes up out of it. And so that's my experience of it. I'm going to definitely be doing more videos on mushrooms and the benefits and all of these things and plant medicine ceremonies and ayahuasca and like all that stuff. And so I encourage you to keep tuning in, and please message me, write down your questions in the comments below. I'm here to answer whatever you want to throw at me, whatever question it is. I am doing this full time. I'm not working, so this is my full-time thing. I love doing it. I'm definitely moving into more more natural healing methods versus the medical stuff, because I've been learning so much about how that can keep us staying sick, and we want to heal the planet, not keep this planet sick. So anyway, I appreciate you so much. I'm so grateful for you. You have no idea how much it's meant to me to have you here and watching and engaging. I love it so much. It means the world to me. If I could help one person feel better for an hour, then it's all worth it. And so do me a favor and please take care of yourself today in every way, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, all that, and love you.